Recently, I was in Money Magazine talking about common HSA mistakes, and there was one that I cited in particular that can cost you tens of thousands of dollars a year, and 9 out of 10 people make this mistake. We're going to talk about this next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
A few days ago, Money Magazine published an article called The Common HSA Mistake That Could Cost You in Retirement. It was written by journalist Liliana Hall, and for those not familiar with her work, she is a highly respected voice in the world of financial journalism. The article was called The Common HSA Mistake That Can Cost You in Retirement, and I was referenced in that article 4 separate times. After reading the completed article, it struck me that this article could form the base for a really good video here on YouTube. So before we go any further, let me thank Money Magazine and Liliana Hall for the source material. All right, let's get into it. Here's the mistake at the center of the article, and it's the one I see all of the time. Here's exactly what I told Liliana for the piece. People think an HSA is a spending account. The name says savings, but the plumbing says checking. You receive a debit card, and consumer behavior follows the debit card. This one habit, treating a savings account like a checking account, is costing an entire generation of savers one of the biggest tax benefits in the tax code. So today I'm going to show you 3 things: the mistake that people are making, the fix, and a related mistake for people who are age 65 or older that costs them a penalty if they get it wrong. Let's begin with the number that started the whole story. The Employee Benefits Research Institute, or EBRI, surveyed just over 2,000 Americans at the end of 2025. They found that 2 out of 3 HSA holders are using that account for current or near-term medical bills. Only a small percentage are saving it for retirement. Here's something else that they found. The most common reason people opened the account in the first place wasn't the tax break. It was simply that their employer put money in it, and fewer people in the past 10 years even named the tax advantage as a reason. Now, to be fair, this account is designed for near-term medical bills, so people are using it as instructed in many cases. For a lot of people, the money is needed right now, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But spending it as you go means walking away from years of tax-free growth, and a lot of people don't fully realize the impact of this. Think about what that looks like over time. Someone who spends every dollar will have a near zero balance as they head into retirement. A person who leaves it invested could be sitting on tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars in retirement. Same contributions, completely different result. And here is where it gets interesting. At the end of 2025, Americans held $174 billion in these accounts, spread across 41.7 million of them. But only 10% of those accounts, 4.2 million, had money invested. 10%. The rest were leaving it in cash. And here's the kicker. That 10% held just under half of all of the wealth in these accounts, 49% to be exact. A tiny slice of people have about 50% of the pie just by turning on one option. And they're building real balances. 4.1 million of them had over $10,000 in their account. 1.7 million of them had over $25,000 in their account. That doesn't happen by accident. They turn on the investment option and leave it alone. The rest, the money is sitting in cash, earning next to nothing, while healthcare costs continue to rise. So why don't people invest it? Usually 2 reasons. The first, some plans make you keep a minimum in cash before you're allowed to invest, and a lot of people simply don't know the option is there. It's often a button you have to go to find. So why do I care so much about this one account? Well, here's what I said in Money Magazine, and I'll say it again here. The HSA is the only account in the tax code that's tax-free on both ends. A Roth gives you one end, a 401k gives you the other, the HSA gives you both. Let me be very specific here. With a 401k, your contributions go in with pre-tax dollars and they grow, but when you take the money out, you have to pay tax on that money, or at least it becomes taxable income. With a Roth, it's the reverse. You contribute with after-tax dollars, it grows tax-free, and then when you take it out, you don't owe taxes on that money or the growth. With the HSA, you get both. You get a tax break when you put it in, and it comes out tax-free when you take it out, as long as you use it for qualified expenses. That's what people mean by triple tax advantage, and no other major retirement account offers this benefit. For 2026, you can put in $4,400 if you're on a single health plan, or $8,750 for a family plan. And if you're 55 or older, you can add another $1,000 on top of that. The one requirement is that you're on a qualifying high-deductible health plan. And there's one more advantage worth knowing. Unlike a flexible spending account or an FSA, it is not a use-it-or-lose-it account. You don't have to spend the money by the end of the year, which means that the funds can grow year after year. The investments can grow year after year. And if you contribute through payroll deduction, you also skip Social Security and Medicare payroll tax. Now, before we go any further, let me talk about a tool that can help you. It's Bolden Personal Financial Planning Software. This is the personal financial planning software that I personally use. Bolden is one of only 3 affiliates on the channel, and it's the only one that I personally went to and asked to become affiliate of theirs. And we get 25 approaches a month, maybe even more sometimes. With Bolden, you can set up forecasting. You can run your plan through optimistic, average, or pessimistic assumptions for rates of return and growth so you can plan around uncertainty. There's a Roth Conversion Explorer. You can model conversion plans using 4 different strategies to optimize for taxes and estate planning. You can build up to 10 different scenarios and compare as many as 3 side by side to see how your choices play out. And you can choose different withdrawal strategies. Choose among spending-based, fixed percentage, and maximum spending approaches with a customizable account withdrawal order. And one of my personal favorites is to set up a must-spend, like-to-spend budget so that you know what your minimums are. If this is of interest to you, you can try their full-featured software free for 2 weeks. Simply go to go.bolden.com/Schmidt. At the end of 2 weeks, it's only $12 a month paid annually if you decide to keep it. Now, I want to talk about the one number that makes this really important. That number, $185,500. Every year, Fidelity estimates what healthcare is going to cost someone in retirement. In 2026, they estimate $185,500. That's for one person, not a couple, and that number went up 7.5% in a single year. Here's the part that gets most people's attention. That number does not include long-term care. No home health care, no nursing home. So the real number for most people is even larger. And here's the tieback. If you've been investing your HSA dollars along the way, this is the moment where the payoff really shows. You can use your funds in your HSA account to pay for long-term care. This is exactly what happens when you optimize your HSA account, and this creates the fix. Pay now, reimburse yourself later. Let me explain. If you can afford to pay your regular doctor bill from your checking account, you can take that same amount sitting in your HSA account and let it grow. Then save the receipt, because here's something that most people don't know. You can submit that receipt 10, 20, 30 years in the future and get reimbursed. The only caveat to that is that the amount has to be a qualified expense, and the expense had to have been incurred after you started investing in your HSA account. And by the way, it's not just for doctor visits. Prescriptions, dental work, glasses, hearing aids, and many other out-of-pocket medical costs all count. Every single one of those receipts is a future tax-free withdrawal. But I gave money one caveat, and I'll give it to you too. The caveat is that it takes documentation discipline most people don't sustain across 2 decades. If you can't produce the receipt in 2046, the strategy was theoretical. So if you do this, keep a folder, even make it digital so that it survives across decades. And the one rule at age 65 that almost nobody gets right. First, the moment you enroll in any part of Medicare, you can no longer put money into a health savings account. Not just Part B, any part of Medicare stops your contributions. And related, if you keep working past 65 and then sign up for Medicare, or you claim Social Security, your Part A coverage gets backdated up to 6 months, though never before the month you turn 65. Any money you put into your account during that backdated window becomes something called an excess contribution. And that can trigger a penalty from the IRS, and people do this every year. It's not unusual, and they don't think that they're doing anything wrong. Here's what this looks like in real life. Say you're 67, still working, still covered at your job, and you decide to start Social Security. Social Security automatically signs you up for Part A, and it backdates 6 months. If you keep funding your HSA through payroll during those months, you now have an excess contribution to clean up at tax time, through no real fault of your own. And the fix is simple. Stop contributing 6 months before you start Social Security or sign up for Medicare. Once you're on Medicare, you can still spend the account. In fact, that's what it's for. It can pay for qualified Medicare premiums. Your HSA can cover premiums for Medicare Part A, Part B, Part C, that's Medicare Advantage, and Part D drug plans, all tax-free. There's one exception. You can't use it for your Medigap plan premium. That's your Medicare supplement. Now let's just say that you're extremely healthy and you don't ever get sick. You don't require any major medical costs throughout your retirement. It can still be used as a second IRA. Before age 65, if you pull the money out for something that's not a covered medical expense, you pay tax on that money plus a 20% penalty. But after age 65, that 20% penalty goes away and it looks just like a regular IRA. You can take the funds out and use them for whatever you want to use them for, but you do need to pay taxes on those funds. So the two possible outcomes: you take the money out and use them for qualified medical expenses. There's no tax on them whatsoever. Or after age 65, you take the funds out and you pay taxes on them like you would your regular IRA or your 401k. Heads you win, tails you tie. There's very little downside to funding an account like this if you can afford to do it. Now let's talk about when not to do this. Here are the exact words that I gave Money Magazine. If paying a $4,000 medical bill out of pocket means carrying it on a card at 22%, you've just lost money protecting an account growing at 7%. The math doesn't work no matter how good the tax treatment is. The same thing would hold true if paying the bill yourself would drain your emergency fund, as an example. In those cases, use the HSA. That's literally what it's for. Don't incur high interest debt to chase a tax break. And one more really candid point: if you're 60 to 62, you have less runway than someone who's 40. If you're close to Medicare age, you have fewer years for the money to grow, so the invest and wait strategy has less impact. So, your 5-step plan. Step 1, use your regular cash flow to pay for your medical expenses if your finances allow for it, and leave your funds invested in the HSA. Step 2, actually invest the balance. Remember, 9 out of 10 people don't invest the balance. They leave it in cash, earning a really low rate. Step 3, keep your receipts and keep a copy in a digital folder that's backed up so you can pay yourself later. Step 4, if you're within 6 months of Medicare or Social Security, stop contributing now so that you don't face a penalty. Step 5, in retirement, you can use it for Medicare premiums, Part A, Part B, and a Medicare Advantage premium, but not Medigap. When you do that, the account works the way that the name always promised. Gang, how prepared are you for retirement really? If you ask the average person, they think they're more prepared than they really are. That's why I created the Retirement Readiness Quiz. It's 15 questions. It takes 2 minutes to answer, and at the end of the quiz, you get a 12-page report emailed to you instantly. The quiz is totally free. There's no credit card, no phone number, nothing like that. If you would like to get your own report, simply go to hollyschmidt.com/quiz, answer the 15 questions, and look for the report by email. If you like this video, check out that video. Don't roll your 401k into an IRA without knowing this lawsuit risk. Also, don't forget to check out Bolden. Go to go.bolden.com/Schmidt to get your free 2 weeks. This is Jeff Schmidt, and I will see you in that video right there.